Does the U.S. shoot at UFOs? What's the deal? Well, David Grush actually has some comments about this very thing. So let's talk about it and some other various updates and takes from various people, including Leslie Kane, on this whole subject. So let's get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, I love the David Grush story. This is amazing. This is bombshell after bombshell. He talks about alien bodies, crash retrievals, reverse engineering, and now he talks about the potential of actual violent interaction with the UFOs. So let's hear what the man himself has to say.
News Nation has confirmed Grush's credentials, but he says he can't show us the proof of the alien craft for national security reasons. In a somewhat frightening revelation, Grush claims the non-human species may not be friendly.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Grush says he has to be careful about providing detail. He shared this letter with us from the Department of Defense giving him permission to do the interview with News Nation. It says the interview questions are approved for public release. However, this approval does not include any photograph, picture, exhibit, caption, or other supplemental material not specifically approved by this office. Our concurrence for release does not imply DoD endorsement or factual accuracy of the material. Grush says the United States is not the only country that has encountered non-human intelligence. He says our geopolitical rivals have their own crash retrieval programs.
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this, and it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long, and there is no good way to level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours, and it is so destabilizing.
The secrecy is the main reason
So there you go. There is violent interactions with UFOs. They may not be friendly, or at least some of them. David Grush even uses the word malevolent. He says that yes, there have been malevolent events where humans may have been hurt. And this is something that I've covered on the channel multiple times. In fact, I'm thinking of doing a whole playlist based on the cases and the videos that I've made of us shooting at UFOs and UFOs shooting at us. Lou Elizondo even talked about a hypothetical way that we could down a UFO. I think it was using electromagnetic pulses. So, and when Lou talks in hypotheticals, you know something's going on there. Yeah, so very interesting to have this corroboration from David Grush about this multi-decade story, because this has been going on for a long time, not just in the U.S. As he says, there's been a Cold War with UFO technology for decades, and of course there has. And of course, other countries have their own crash retrieval programs. And, that is just the reality of the situation. So, but let's go on, because he had talked about us having bodies. And I said, my comment on that was, well, this proves to me that this was not a planned disclosure, because I don't think in any planned disclosure they would present the idea of bodies as their go-to piece of evidence. They would talk about the hardware, but they would save the bodies for later. They would leave enough room for people to have cognitive dissonance if they needed to have it to maintain their sanity, and then later they would get to the bodies. So, but Leslie Kane actually talks about how they would not have run the story of the bodies. And I think that's very interesting. So let's see what she has to say about that.
And he's making claims of non-human craft and bodies, potentially unknown pilot bodies, he said. Those are some extreme claims with no evidence to date. Can you speak to then, how you came to sourcing that information from him, and then also potentially what it's going to look like in the future if other documents will be released? Because I know he did give you a few, but are any photos or anything else going to come forward, hopefully and potentially in the coming weeks or months or maybe years?
I mean, just to start right off, we want to stay away from bodies. I assume you agree, Ralph, because that's not something we talk to him about. That's not something we would ever put in our story. And so if he wants to make that leap with somebody else, which is what he's done, I'm not going to be able to comment on that. And it's just not part of our story. I mean, our focus in our story is on the physical craft. And that's what he talked to us about. And obviously there can never be documents released that are specifically about a specific craft or specific studies done on a craft that reveal anything about locations or pictures. Absolutely not, because they're all classified. We know all
yeah,
the data.
so that makes me wonder if Leslie Kane is part of some sort of planned disclosure faction that does have a 7-year plan or what have you, or at least vague steps and ideas about how to go forward. And, I don't know if that's true or not, but what she's saying conforms to my idea of how a planned disclosure would go, a drip disclosure over several years. You start with the craft, then you introduce the idea of the bodies later, then you may even talk about live aliens and contact experiences. You may try to frame it in a way where this is current and present and, not in the past. And then later they can say, hey, yeah, actually, we've been having this interaction all along. And then you can talk about abductions and stuff like that. And you also have to frame that in as positive a light as you can. If this was a planned disclosure initiative. But this really is somebody that just blundered onto some information. Well, I shouldn't say blunder, because he deliberately sought it out and got it. So this is the lead investigator of the U.A.P. task force, and man, he investigated and he got stuff. So other people have been chiming in. So let's go over to what Heckle and Jekyll over here, a different Heckle and Jekyll, not Bray and Moultrie, but some congressmen, some boobs in Congress. Let's see what they have to say.
I have to ask this because it's in the news about unidentified aerial phenomena and the possibility that this whistleblower is accurate.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
It's astonishing. These people are said to be well respected.
Maybe I'll jump in quickly here and just say we did have a hearing. In fact, we've had 2 hearings in the last couple of years on this subject. And I asked a question in the second hearing. I asked, because of course you hear this notion that's been out there forever that the United States government is hiding material, that we're hiding aliens or whatever. I asked a very specific question, which is, do we have any sort of matter, organic or inorganic or whatever, that we can't explain as to its source? Now, this was a year, maybe a year and a half ago, and the answer was an unequivocal no.
Mr. Chairman, obviously part of the story is that they've held it from Congress, from the administration. I mean, it's pretty astonishing if true. Anything to weigh in on?
Brett, this has been a story since the 1960s, really. Every decade there's been individuals who've said that the United States has such pieces of unidentified flying objects that are from outer space. There's no evidence of this, and certainly it would be quite a conspiracy for this to be able to be maintained, especially at this level.
Yeah, it would be quite a conspiracy, and it is. It is the conspiracy of all time. There's been a lot of conspiracies, and this is the conspiracy. So, but I think it's really noteworthy that Bret Baier, who's this staid mainstream anchor, actually pushes back on the congressman. When they, deny this stuff, he says, yeah, but, the whole idea, what David Grush found is that this has been withheld from Congress and, everybody else. So I think that is really noteworthy that we have mainstream anchors not simply accepting the smirking, sneering responses from these boobs, but actually pushing back on that. So I find that really encouraging. But let's see what answers there might be, or what other insight there might be into that very question.
Do you believe him in number one? And number two, forgive my skepticism, but the government has never been all that good at keeping secrets for all that long. You're talking about what would have had to be generations worth of secret keeping.
Exactly what the senators were talking about, or the congressmen were talking about.
For all of this to be true.
Leland, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you, I've long been skeptical of these claims. These claims of crash retrieval programs have been around for decades, as you said. I've been skeptical of those claims for that very reason. I was in the government. I didn't think that it was possible to keep that kind of a secret. That said, the Inspector General of the intelligence community has ruled and deemed the allegations made by this whistleblower credible and urgent. It's a direct quote. So I think this is worth investigating. I want Congress to really buckle down and investigate, and I want the Inspector General.
So yeah, the Inspector General said it was urgent. It was credible and urgent. So that's pretty compelling, right? So, and I'm really intrigued by the use of the word urgent, because I hadn't heard that before. So I want to know what the inspector meant by urgent. I think that could be a key in all this. It could be an important part of, what we're seeing. Who knows? But let's see what Jeremy Corbell had to say. And by the way, this is a mainstream station that is covering this on primetime TV. So this is pretty big. This is a great sign that this story has legs and that it's really gaining traction. And it's been on a whole bunch of, well, not a whole bunch, but it really is gaining steam in a variety of news stations. And but let's see what Jeremy has to say.
Corbell is an investigative journalist who helped obtain and release DoD footage of UFOs and made contact with this DoD whistleblower as far back as 14 months ago. So you're vouching for this guy.
Well, we certainly know that Mr. Grush is who he says that he is, that he was in the position that he said that he was in, that he had the access that he said that he had. We know that for certain. And also we know that his colleagues and people around him find him to be a credible person, as do I. So now we're at the point where we have somebody making accusations, and these are accusations of a cover-up. This is accusations that we have been holding non-terrestrial materials and working on back engineering them. And if that is the case, it is our duty to have that investigated. And Arrow, which is our government program, it is their duty now to investigate those claims, to either verify them or call them false.
Why don't we see any photos of these spacecraft or these dead aliens, do you think?
Yeah, I want to see them too, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is we want to know. We don't want to think. We want to know. But this really does feel like an episode or that movie Don't Look Up. People have been saying for a long time that there are these reverse engineering of non-terrestrial craft, that this has been going on. We know for sure these things are operating in our skies. I think the big question is, who made them? Where are the manufacturing facilities for these? Where do they come from? Who's piloting them? And what do they want? And so these accusations by...
Yeah, anyway, so he goes on, and but he's got a great point. We want to see the photos. We want to see the videos, right? Congress now knows where these craft are. Presumably they know where the bodies are. This has been delivered to them. The proof of this has been delivered to them. The classified proof of all of this has been delivered to Congress. So why the hell is Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand not standing on a UFO right now with a live press conference on every news network that should be covered 24 hours a day, every day? There is no legitimate reason why Congress is not on this and ramming the gates of these facilities right now. You know, whether they need to engage the executive branch to actually have the force to do that, I don't know. But they have no legitimate reason not to be pursuing all avenues, extreme measures to be given access to these facilities and to bear these secrets on live TV. That should be happening right now. The fact that it's not shows me that Tim Burchett was correct and that members of Congress have been compromised on this issue. At least that's my take. You guys may have a different opinion. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. We've got David Grush saying that there have been malevolent events that have harmed human lives caused by the phenomenon, which of course is something that I've covered and many other people have covered. It is just a thing. But now we have corroboration of this from somebody, a very credible person who has looked into this at a very high level, who even the Inspector General says is credible and his claims are urgent. So, yeah, so we need more information. We need those pictures, Jeremy. We need those videos. Abso-freaking-lutely. So, yeah, so let's get some. Let's get Congress to get us some. Let's get access to these facilities that are, David Grush says are illegal. So, and they have been illegally keeping these secrets. So let's not let them get away with that. Let's expose the secrets and let's get rid of the illegality. So those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video or gotten something out of it, please give it a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you there. And if you could share this video on social media, that would be super helpful. There's plenty of other videos on the channel. And until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.